From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Coming up on AgDay, Silicon Valley has nothing on this high-tech hub in the Mid-South.
There may be as much as $1 trillion of new investment opportunity in front of us.
How Memphis is claiming the AgTech crown. USDA tries to set the record straight on trade aid, and wild spring weather continues.
I've been through a lot of tornadoes. I've never been in one so close.
From twisters to flooding, farm country struggles to cope.
AgDay, presented by the all-new Chevy Silverado, the strongest, most advanced Silverado ever.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Meteorologists say the 12-month stretch from May of last year through April of this year was the wettest 12-month period in U.S. history, dating back to 1895. And this May, also on its way to be a memorable month when it comes to rain and flooding. Just look at all this water. This video shared with us on Facebook of a farmer in Valley Park, Mississippi, the area not far from the Mississippi River north of Vicksburg. All that water the result of heavy rains and snowmelt from the north moving south. Now combine that with even more rain, and farmers in Mississippi are dealing with flooding problems as well. As the Mississippi Farm Bureau shows us, the problem has lasted months, not just days.
This is the road David Doyle uses to access his fields in Claiborne County in the southwest part of the state along the Mississippi River. On a typical day in March, he'd be planting corn. Now, he can't even make it a few yards before it's unsafe to go farther into the flowing water. He has hundreds of acres underwater.
It's a bad feeling, and when I first leased this farm back in '96, you would flood like 1 out of 7 years you'd have river. Now, if it doesn't flood 1 out of 10 years, you're lucky. Yeah. It's every year now, every year.
Further north in Warren County, Mac McKnight farms land just off Highway 61 north of Vicksburg. While sandbags are in place as a precaution for the city, McKnight's land looks more like a lake than farm. Nearby, consider this a kind of dry storage as farmers park their tractors on higher ground so they aren't damaged by floodwaters.
Hundreds of homes, a lot of farmland that hasn't gone under, didn't even go under in '73. It's just a lot of folks that's never had water in their houses and their shops and over their farmland that they're experiencing that this year. So it's just another year for me, but it's really affecting a lot more folks this year.
According to the Mississippi Levee Board, the total farmland flooded is 500,000 acres and still rising.
It'll definitely have an impact. It's going to have an impact on the farmers and their ability to get their crops in this year in this part of the world. It's going to probably affect the little local communities more than it is on a national basis. But certainly if the farmers aren't farming, they're not buying fuel, they're not buying inputs for their farms. So just the local economies in the local towns up and down the Mississippi River in these Delta counties is going to have a huge impact.
So farmers play the waiting game and pray the river recedes in time.
Just to be able to plant the last crop that I would plant here would be soybeans. I'd have to be able to get them in before the end of June.
Your salary this year is going to be cut 30%, 40%. That's kind of how it trickles down to us. It might take a while to get there, but it always affects your pocketbook.
The latest crop progress report showing just 45% of the Mississippi soybean crop has been planted. Usually 80% is in the ground. Cotton is only a third planted, also about half its normal pace. Flooding is also a big problem in Oklahoma, especially in places like Deer Creek. Resident Steve Klein said he had to rescue his 5 horses as water covered his property.
To lead them through the water up to their belly.
The National Weather Service says up to 5 inches of rain had fallen since Monday, and in El Reno and Stillwater, home to Oklahoma State University, emergency responders rescued people from their homes. Other people in the state are cleaning up from tornadoes and powerful winds.
When I turned this way, I couldn't tell what direction I was going anymore because stuff was just flying around. Everything was turned around. It was, and nothing looked right.
The Weather Service Storm Prediction Center website listed 37 reports of tornadoes on Tuesday in Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, and Nebraska. And if it's not rain, it's snow. In other parts of farm country, meteorologist Mike Hoffman has more today's crop comments. Mike?
Thanks, Clinton. Nebraska has seen its share of wild weather this spring, and this week is no different. Brian sharing this video with us on Twitter. He lives in Mitchell, Nebraska. Brian saying, quote, "I have done a lot in my life, but never have turned bulls out in 8 inches of snow on the 21st of May. Well, taking a look at the wind speed forecast, you can see it's going to be a little breezy in the western lakes, Texas back into the southwest, and that's going to increase as we head through the day. Those are 2 different storm systems there. Heading through tonight, the one into the northeast weakens a little bit, but the one in the central plains still pretty windy in that area as we start the day, and it becomes windy throughout most of the plains as we head through the rest of the day. And obviously in all these situations, thunderstorms can increase those winds in small areas for short periods of time. I'll have more on your forecast coming up, but first here are some hometown temps.
Introducing Farm Journal TV, on demand 24/7. AgDay, Machinery Pete TV. U.S. Farm Report on your phone and tablet. Download the Farm Journal TV mobile app today.
All right, thanks, Mike. Meanwhile, Congress continues to work to get a disaster aid bill passed. We're told negotiators are nearing an agreement on a supplemental spending bill to address disaster recovery and issues at the southern border. Now, the bill is expected to include more funding for Puerto Rico after it was hurt by 2 hurricanes in 2017.
I'd like to be voting on a bill that's going to become a law and get a signature. As I've said repeatedly, this is the longest time I can certainly remember between disasters occurring and actually assistance being passed. People in the South and the Midwest who've been adversely affected have every right to be running out of patience with us, and it's time to get this job done.
The Republicans finally, they were holding this up for a very long time because they didn't want to treat Puerto Rico fairly because President Trump didn't want them to. They finally, the Republican leadership got enough heat from its own members, particularly from farm states, that they ought to come to an agreement.
The plan would also help provide relief for floods in the Midwest and tornadoes in the South. Soybean markets recovering somewhat Wednesday following assertions from USDA that reported details on trade aid were, quote, inaccurate. On Tuesday, a Bloomberg reporter cited unnamed sources saying the administration was considering payments of $2 per bushel on soybeans, 63 cents to wheat, and 4 cents a bushel for corn. Now, USDA squashed those rumors Tuesday afternoon, saying, quote, farmers should continue to make their planning and production decisions with the current market signals in mind, rather than some expectation of what a farming support program might or might not look like based on inaccurate media stories. It's been a topsy-turvy cattle market in the last few months. Up next, we'll try to get our arms around it with John Payne. And later, when you think of tech hubs, what places come to mind? We'll take you to a city that's turning ag tech on its head. Coming up.
Closed captioning is brought to you by BASF. Grow smart with BASF. We create chemistry.
Soybean futures back in the green on Wednesday amid wet forecasts that continue to delay planting. Here's the latest from the CME.
Today in the grain market, soybeans rally. That USDA says that old crop exports are confirmed. It's 2 unknown sources, but the confirmation did set the stage for the market to rally a little bit. The USDA also said that the increase in farm aid is ahead. That's really kind of just a rumor, but the government doesn't really want the farmers to change their planting decisions. With this wet weather, it's going to be difficult to tell just what the farmers are going to do. Corn was also firm today. Now, managed funds are covering their shorts. They went from 300,000 contract shorts to 106,000, and that really has the contract to at its highest point since January. Now, we'd had a little bit of a pullback. There was some profit taking from the surging futures that we've had over the past week, but there is some serious flooding and concerns that the damage to the milling wheat and soft red wheat supplies are also dropping. The market bounced around quite a bit, so I think that they're not really sure which way to go here. Let's see what tomorrow brings, and maybe it will give us a little bit better idea of a direction as we go into the holiday weekend. Feeders were mixed today. The rising grain prices really are capping the futures right now from any significant rally. There's a concern that China will not even use U.S. pork supplies to replenish their losses. That is a significant worry, but it hasn't pushed that market any lower. Even though we've had a pullback from the top, we're still kind of consolidating and moving somewhat sideways.
John Payne, author of This Week in Grains and Oilseeds, our guest today. John, let's talk about this cattle market because, as we get into the heart of grilling season, we continue to watch retail demand and demand overall for beef, and it appears to be somewhat strong.
Yeah.
Right?
Market's essentially done what it did last year, rallied into the kind of late April period, and once the front month contract there went off the board, you saw June fall apart, and I'd like to think that we can recover here. There's good cash demand out there, but the futures traders are looking at supply right now. Big on-feed numbers, marketings are a little bit down, so we think that short term you're going to see a weakness in the feeder price, especially in the back of the curve, but the front of the curve I think you have some support here. Folks are going to start to put them on grass. I think the feedlots might have to pull a little bit harder to get supply to come in, but at this point, again, I think we probably stay sideways here. A higher hog price could certainly help. If you see that August contract break below 100, I certainly wouldn't be hedged there, but I would be prepared for one of the front month contracts on a bearish move to go down that low. But again, that would be kind of the worst of it in my opinion. We are inverted, meaning the market is more expensive in the front of the curve, but as you get back into the fall contracts, we're starting to move into that carry. So feeder contracts here, I don't think you need to take a ton of risk and hedge up too hard, but you get a move above 150 in the fall contracts. I think you owe it to yourself to try to do something. If we go above 160, start looking at the deferreds as far as spring cattle goes.
Yeah, real quick, global demand still hanging tough?
Yeah, it's difficult to gauge right now. The tariffs are certainly a part of it. I think we were hoping to move some meat to China this year. They essentially just tacked some tariffs on, so that might not happen here in the short run. But the supply is there. I think grain prices are going to certainly have a little bit to do with the feeder price, but I think we've maybe missed our chance to sell 160 on the fall. I hope I'm wrong at that, but I would certainly be moving some if you get above 150.
All right, we'll keep an eye on it. Appreciate it, John. Thanks so much. We'll be back here with more Ag Day coming up.
To find John's newsletter, This Week in Grain and Oilseeds, head over to www.thisweekingrain.com. Your next piece of equipment is on MachineryPete.com. Search equipment from dealerships across the country to find what you're looking for. Only on MachineryPete.com.
Welcome back to Ag Day. Meteorologist Mike Hoffman here looking at rainfall over the past 7 days, Mike, and you can see we're talking about all that flooding, and there it is.
There it is, yeah. I mean, it shows up. These are estimated rainfall amounts from all the radars across the country. And this takes us through early afternoon yesterday, just so you know. So there have been some more thunderstorms since then in places like Illinois and Missouri. But you can see, basically, it's the center of the country. Just continues to get pounded. The amounts kind of lessen as it goes across the Great Lakes into the northeast. And there's spotty amounts out west, mainly in the higher elevations, seeing the heavier amounts. But when you zoom into this, you can see these pink areas, purple areas that are 8 inches plus. Parts of southeast Kansas, north central Kansas, a couple of spots, and also northeastern portions of Oklahoma, including the Stillwater area there in northeastern Oklahoma. All right, let's go for the future rainfall. We're looking at two main systems, one over the Great Lakes. Again, basically these storms strengthen as they come through the southwest across the plains and weaken as they go through the ridge in the east. So as we put things into motion, you can see there will still be some showers and thunderstorms with that system as it moves through the eastern Great Lakes and the northeast, and we see some additional rain and mountain snows actually in some of the higher elevations of the Rockies, but these thunderstorms will start to come back out as we head through the afternoon hours today, mainly ahead of that warm front. As we head toward Friday morning then, we'll see scattered activity ahead of the warm front, scattered activity ahead of the cold front as well. And then as we head through the rest of the day, during the day tomorrow, you can see those areas of showers and thunderstorms, not quite as widespread as some of these past storm systems. So we can at least hope that we start to dry things out a little bit, but it's going to take a long time. Precipitation estimates over the past 24 hours we've seen from northeastern Oklahoma into the southwestern Great Lakes. The main amounts adding in the next 36. Again, not as widespread as we've seen, but if you're getting the heavy rain, it's still a lot of it. Parts of northern Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, into Missouri and Illinois. There's the snowfall estimates. It's pretty much all the higher elevations of the western portions of the country. As far as temperatures go, basically it's heat in the southeast, the frontal system, cooler to the north of that. That's going to continue to be the case pretty much. So there's low temperatures tomorrow morning, heading through tomorrow afternoon. You can see all of those right there. As far as the jet stream, more of the same. We see the ripples coming out of the southwest, ridge holding in the southeast. It gets cut down occasionally through the holiday weekend, but it's right back as we head into next week. That's a look across the country. Now let's take a look at some local forecasts. Heading to Gillette, Wyoming, first of all, cloudy and chilly with showers, high of 45. Jonesboro, Arkansas, hot and humid with lots of sunshine, high of 92. And Hartford, Connecticut, mix of sun and clouds, high 68.
More American beef will soon be going to Japan thanks to a new agreement. But how quickly could it impact livestock producers? Details in Drovers next.
Drovers Report is sponsored by Corteva Agriscience, Agriculture Division of Dow DuPont, your partner in range and pasture productivity.
As we first told you last week, Japan has agreed to eliminate long-standing restrictions on U.S. beef exports. That includes the 30-month cattle age limit. Now, Japan is already the largest international market for U.S. beef, with exports last year topping $2 billion. But what does it mean for cattle ranchers across the country? We talked with Scott Brown, an economist at the University of Missouri.
So I do think, U.S. cattle ranchers, they need that next win, and Japan is certainly one of the places where we can get it. I often like to remind us that we get focused on tariffs quite often. This is a non-tariff barrier that's now lifted, gives us better access to that Japanese market, maybe moves some beef products that otherwise would have a hard time finding a home. I think ultimately the idea of maybe even another trade agreement with Japan that reduces tariffs even further gives us additional access opportunities, and certainly is a big win and higher cattle prices than otherwise would be the case as a result of that for U.S. cattle producers.
The U.S. Meat Export Federation projects that having full beef access to Japan will increase exports by another $150 to $200 million annually. A vaccine for African swine fever may be 8 years away. That's according to USDA Undersecretary Greg Eibach. Meanwhile, Eibach said USDA is working on a regionalization agreement with Canada relative to keeping ASF out of both countries, and also processes to contain the spread if there is an outbreak. You don't have to go to California to find high tech. Up next, we'll show you how Memphis may be the new Silicon Valley for ag technology. Silicon Valley may come to mind when you think about technology hubs, yet Memphis may be a new contender, not just for innovation, but in ag technology. AgDay's Betsy Gibbon has a story.
Memphis may be known for its familiar trademarks, music, Elvis, and barbecue. But some are trying to attach another name with the city.
I think it's the ag tech capital of the world, and I do think it will become more so in the years ahead.
Memphis may be growing with ag technology because it is located within an 150-mile radius of every major crop grown in the United States. AgriCenter International, a major player in field crop research, located there because of it. They have research plots with nearly 100 commercial partners, including non-disclosure agreements.
We'll look at products somewhere 3 to 5 years out. Those products will be very unique. They will be some type of either plant package, so it could be a GMO, but it also could be a very traditional crop or a traditional fertilizer or chemistry. We were very active several years ago looking at the new dicamba products.
It's all technology we may see the next few years. Something tech companies want to be a part of during field days too.
In the last few years, we've seen more micronutrient, soil health, microbiome kind of research than I've ever seen before.
So we have the production here, but we also have the companies here that are technology companies that are innovative and creative and that are looking to the future.
While it's drawing new companies, even think tanks like the recent Davos on the Delta conference are coming to Memphis, hoping to share ideas about agricultural innovation.
There's a lot changing in agriculture, that there may be as much as $1 trillion of new investment opportunity in front of us, and we might be seeing monumental changes in agriculture.
For now, Memphis may be the home of the blues, but its future could have farmers ready to rock and roll. Reporting for AgDay, I'm Betsy Gibbon.
All right, thanks, Betsy, and that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. It's been part of your day with us. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great one.